Today I'm going to be showing you how to use TinkerCAD, which is a free online 3D design software. So this video is made for beginners, so if you are advanced, this isn't for you. So just check out some of our cool tutorials instead, and we'll show you how to make some awesome stuff. But first, learning TinkerCAD. Navigation. As you noticed, I've been using this block at the top to navigate. So you click and you drag. There you go. So you can navigate around this blue thing, which is called the work plane. Alright, so now zooming in and out, pretty obvious too. You click the plus or the minus buttons, and if you're on a trackpad, you can just zoom in using 2 fingers. There you go. So, panning. This is kind of tricky, so I didn't really know this, and this is quite a cool trick. If you don't know this, it's going to be pretty hard to move around. There is this, I just dragged this block onto the work plane. You press the shift key, and you use right click and you drag your mouse or your trackpad so that you can move around the work plane easier. So just to demonstrate, shift key, 2 fingers, drag up or drag down. There, so now you've learned how to navigate around the work plane. This isn't too hard, and if you just need any additional reference, be free to come back to this video. Now, adding shapes. There are lots of shapes in this area. This is called the basic shapes. You might notice there's some other parts like shape library, which I find particularly useful if I'm building any vehicles, because there are some very nice wheels that you can get in here. For example, this wheel, etc. But mostly you're going to want to be on basic shapes, because most things are built out of basic shapes. I'm going to start by dragging a box here. This is a red box. You just drag it wherever you want to on the work plane. You drag the red bit or any part that isn't covered by one of these white or black dots, which I will explain later. And you can just navigate around. It's quite easy. Now, there's lots of different types of shapes. For example, you can get a sphere, you can get a cylinder, and you just drag it anywhere. So Scribble is kind of useful if you're trying to build a custom shape. So for example, if I want to make an Apple logo, I would probably use Scribble. On Scribble, if you want to make an object, for example, filled in like this, I'm just going to retrace over my logo, and I've just filled it in. I'm going to do the same up here. There, and I've got an Apple logo. When I click done, it will actually be like that on the work plane. By the way, TinkerCAD automatically renames your product, your design some weird names. So I just got Swanky Cup Crunk, which means absolutely nothing. So I'm just going to rename this as TinkerCAD Basics. There. You can also change the color. Each type of material has a different color. So you just click on solid. You can go to custom presets where you get this color palette, or just normal. I'm going to put it slightly gray. There. So now, moving shapes and making them bigger and smaller. You want to move a shape, and to delete a shape, you can either press the delete button or use the backspace key on your keyboard. So, when you click on this, you get a drop-down menu. This is the radius. It basically gives the shape a kind of, it curves it to the corners, and this is nice if you want like a kind of a rectangular object that's kind of curved or anything like that. Length, you can increase the length here, and the width, and the height. And you can enter these manually as well. So if I wanted height to be 80, there you go, or width to be 9, that would change it drastically. Alright, so now we've learned how to make shapes big and smaller, but I haven't actually shown you how to do it manually. This is also pretty easy. You just grab one of the corners and you move it according to how big you want it to be. If you go here, you can see at the very top, there's a little white square. You can use this to change the height. And at the bottom, there's also a white square. Sorry. And you can also use this to pull up the bottom so that it's kind of floating. If you actually want to move an object up or down, you grab this little triangle at the very top. And that's how you move objects up and down. Finally, rotating objects. If you're rotating the bottom of an object, you can only rotate by 20, I think it's 12.5 degrees. Sometimes on the sides you are allowed to rotate by more. So for example, you can just do this, and you can rotate the objects accordingly to how much you want it. So for example, if I wanted to rotate this, so I could put a sphere on top or something, I don't even know what I would want to do. There, I've built something. So now I'll just try and do this a little bit on TinkerCAD, experiment, and the best way to learn TinkerCAD is by doing TinkerCAD. So just try something ambitious. You could try a car. Who cares? Nobody cares how it's going to end up. Just try it, and you'll learn as you go, and eventually you'll be able to build something really cool. If you need help, check out some of our tutorials. We've made some really cool ones, especially on building cars and building other stuff as well. Also, if you're doing lots of other types of design, check out our playlists. We do Adobe XD and Photoshop and all different types of tutorials. Anyway, back to the video. Now, this is the hardest part. This is cutting out parts. You might notice that there's this hole function here. So you can actually just do this, and it would cut out a sphere-shaped hole inside this object. The way you do this is by selecting. To select, you press you click on an object, press the Shift key, and click on another object. And it should say up here, Shapes 2 selected. So now you press this, Group, and it groups the shapes. So now, that's done. You group it, and it will basically become one shape, and it will cut out parts of the shape. If you want to just group it so that it's a solid object with a solid object, you can do that as well. So you kind of weld it together. This is kind of the welding button. If you want to ungroup the shapes, you press this button. It's kind of easy. This is the one where it's connected, and this is the one where it's unconnected. So now, say I want to put my Apple logo on this for some reason. Let's call this a magic mouse. I will swivel it, put it there, and I'm just going to cut an apple-shaped hole out of here. So I would press the group button. Whoops, I actually forgot there, so just word of warning, to make this a hole, to cut through the actual object. See, I cut an apple-shaped logo out of this piece of out of this box. So it's now going to be relatively easy to use TinkerCAD. So you can build quite a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to quickly show you. I'm just going to build a random castle. I'm going to use some shapes. I'm going to make a roof. I'm going to swivel the roof using the swivel tool and put it at 90 degrees. I don't really know how to build a castle, but anyway, look, there you go. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. And there's also the text option. So for example, I could say subscribe, and that would come up on the TinkerCAD text. So finally, if you have a 3D printer, and if you're very lucky, you can actually print this out. So I could print out this terrible castle that I built in 2 minutes by clicking export, and then for 3D print you can send it as an STL, OBJ, or GLB. So, and if you want to laser cut, SVG also works. And you can also 3D print directly from TinkerCAD, which is useful. So TinkerCAD is actually made to be a 3D tool where you can 3D print from, but you can just use it as a 3D design tool. Also, if you want to import objects, you can drag and drop an STL or an OBJ or an SVG from your computer, and it would just put the image in TinkerCAD. Word of warning, it's not going to look good. It's going to try its best, but you can't put like drag and drop a Lamborghini in there and then hope that it's going to build a Lamborghini for you. It will probably give a rough image of it, but it won't be very good. Also, export. So if you want to, send to, if you want to send this to someone, you can just invite people by clicking this and generating a new link and sending it to your friends, and then you can collaborate on this project together, which would be kind of useful, and it's very good when you're building a big project together. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure that you subscribe and like the video, please. We put a lot of effort into our videos. Just have a look at some of the tutorials. They take ages. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope now you understand how to use TinkerCAD the basics of it. You will eventually, as you use it more and more, get more and more used to it, and you will know how to do complicated things, and it's really satisfying once you build a good project. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.